So there seems to be a habit at this conference to give a warning about one's professional background. So I'm a psychologist by training, so I'll bring a psychological perspective to this. So AI in recruitment and social media, the use of social media in recruitment or in human resources is nothing new. So human resources have used social media information that candidates, the information they find on candidates' profiles for several years, and most companies use it also today. Mainly they look on LinkedIn, Facebook, and some companies also to a lesser extent look at Twitter. They use it in one way or another, mostly for pre-screening candidates or for background checks, and increasingly also for what is called sourcing or social recruitment, which means actually detecting active and, that is important, passive candidates via information on social media platforms. So the passive candidates are those who already have a job and might be interested once they learn about a job offer in your organization. And given the current shortage on talents, the detection of passive candidates has become more and more important actually for companies. Now you can do social recruitment or sourcing also manually, but it's increasingly actually proposed by tools, automatic tools that have been developed in companies such as Entelo, Hiring Solved, or Modern Hire. So the automatic social recruitment identifies potential candidates through social media platforms with algorithms, and then provide the company with a sort of a ranking of the candidates as a function of the potential fit of the candidate with the position or in the organization. And they make certain promises to their clients. This is from Hiring Solved. The web is the database. Hundreds of millions of candidates, and if your candidate exists, we'll find it. Or in hiring, AI can be used to predict the likelihood of success on job and the risk of turnover. So these are big promises, what professionals actually say they like about these automatic tools is that the undeniable fact they give access to a huge talent pool, much larger than could be done manually. They say it's more efficient. That's probably also an undeniable fact. Time saving. They also think it's easier to find the right people. And interestingly, they also feel like it gives them a way to look at the true person. So it reveals more information about the person than would be provided just by a CV or letter, and information that otherwise would be difficult to detect. And here they often think about the typical red flags. So the negative indicators of problematic behavior at work, which could be ranged from absenteeism up to alcohol and drug use at work. Also, what they like about it, since human judgment is not involved in these tools, they think it's fairer and less biased. So I think let's take a step back here now and look at what is actually the goal of recruitment. So recruitment tries to find good candidates. So we want to create a talent pool of candidates that enable the selection of the best ones for the organization. So those who are most likely to succeed on the job. So most who will perform will be high performers once they are hired. So what we try to do actually at recruitment is to predict future work performance based on the evidence, candidate evidence that is at hand during the phase of recruitment. So this evidence is then typically derived from the CV or from a letter or a short screening test that we have in the recruitment phase. Now, what are actually the best predictors of work for performance? And here we have actually a really clear answer to that, because there's decades of research in work psychology has exactly looked at this question: what predicts work performance? And here, the two best predictors of work performance, this is what this research tells us, is cognitive ability, so a general mental aptitude, you could also call it intelligence, And the second factor is conscientiousness, which is the personality factor, means being organized, being dutiful, being diligent. And you see the two coefficients actually in parentheses there. So these two factors predict well the performance of people on the job as well as their career success later on. So this automatically brings us to the question for social recruitment. So if you use now social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, first of all, is the information provided in the social media actually predictive of work performance? Is it useful to look at this? Then does it truly reveal any additional information that we couldn't find on a CV, especially these difficult to detect informations? And the third question, are outcomes indeed fair? So the current research on the use of social media in recruitment has looked at these questions, mainly looking at Facebook and LinkedIn. They looked at what kind of actually factors, skills, competencies, traits we can derive from people's Facebook and LinkedIn profiles, and to what extent we can then predict work performance, career success, or something like counterproductive work behaviors, sabotage, absenteeism, working intentionally slower, or even illegal, unethical behaviors. So I'm going to point out some key studies now that I provide some concrete answers to the three questions asked earlier. So the first question is work performance. So what predicts work performance? Now imagine we had to predict work performance from Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook profile. So this is a recent study looked at how, what kind of factors we can actually derive from a large sample of Facebook profiles. These were profiles from graduate students who just finished their studies. So they did not only look at intelligence, but also at other factors. And then they followed up on these graduates 1 year later and looked at those indicators of work success, finally, success on the labor market. So what was the relationship, what they found now between Facebook elements and the career success? It was basically zero. So there was nothing, absolutely nothing indicative of future career success in these Facebook profiles. Useless information. LinkedIn. Let's look at LinkedIn. Maybe this is doing better. Here you see the LinkedIn page of the current Minister of Foreign Affairs at Swiss government, Ignacio Cassis. LinkedIn provides a lot of more job-relevant information. You can see he has a little self-descriptive statement, you see the profession, you see where he studied, you see the number of people he's actually connected to. So a recent study looked at what kind of traits now we can derive from people's LinkedIn profiles. Again, a large sample of university graduates in Canada. And if we can be, specialists can kind of make a higher recommendation just based on the LinkedIn profiles. And then they looked at 2 years later, even 2 years later, where were these people at professionally, and looked at the success indicators you see here on the slide. So what they found here is that LinkedIn, the hiring recommendation derived from the LinkedIn profile, which basically correlated hugely with how extroverted, intelligent, etc. people came across through their profile, correlated indeed with these success indicators 2 years later. Now, it's super difficult to predict human behavior. Even coefficients here seem small. They do make a significant contribution here to predict this career success. So LinkedIn does better than Facebook. In our current research, we were actually interested in not only hiring recommendations, but how many job offers do people actually get through LinkedIn based on the elements of their profile. And we were not looking at what people actually, professionals perceive on the profile, but what is it in the profile that makes you more likely to get a job offer or not. And there we had a large sample of LinkedIn profiles of job seekers who used LinkedIn to look for a new job, and coded the profiles and collected all the information you have, including network, the skills, the skill endorsements. I think you know all these features that LinkedIn provides, job recommendations, etc. What did we find? What makes you get more job offers was actually only one thing. It's the picture. So, and there's more specific characteristics of the picture. Having a profile picture with a high facial prominence, meaning you see more of the face relative to the body on the picture, makes you look more competent, and this is related to receiving more job offers on LinkedIn. Now, if you're above 50, also looking younger makes you also get more job offers. So facial prominence and younger looks was actually the only thing. You could forget about the number of connections, recommendations from previous employers, etc. It was not predictive of those job offers. So it's all in the picture. Okay, now difficult to detect information. This was now the information, these kind of red flags. Will this help us to detect anything that we cannot see on the CV where the candidate would actually try to hide in a recruitment phase? So what this study did here, they coded the number of posts with inappropriate content or with alcohol or drug content on Facebook profiles. So it would be as if Mark Zuckerberg would post a picture like this. And then they correlated this with absenteeism at work, with interpersonal aggression, so aggressing coworkers, intentionally working slow, surfing on the internet instead of working, things like this. So what did they find? Zero relationship, which shows that even though you could assume that the underlying link would be a lack of self-control, if I cannot control how I depict myself on Facebook, I might not be able to control myself in the work environment, but it's actually not true. The work environment is a very strong situation that shapes people's behavior. It does not mean what they do on Facebook is what they do at work. So there was no link. There was only one link in the end. What they found is that posting, indeed, pictures with alcohol or drug content, those people reported consuming more alcohol in general, not at work, in general. And you see a very small correlation. It was significant, but here you can really ask a question of what's the practical implications? Okay. Turning to the third and the last question of fairness. So all studies here actually univocally found, this might not become as a surprise also to this audience, that white users get higher ratings and higher hiring recommendations based on their Facebook profiles or LinkedIn profiles than non-white users, and younger users, and also looking younger users get higher ratings than older users or looking older users. So basically this reproduces societal biases or biases that already exist also in traditional recruitment often. So I want to come to the conclusions. Exploiting professional social media for recruitment can be useful, as we saw that with LinkedIn, it does provide some job-relevant information, probably due to the very structured environment of LinkedIn. It solicits actually people to post professionally relevant information. It is indicative of job performance and career progression. But correlations, if you compare that, how, for example, intelligence is related to job performance, see that correlations are small, so it should only be used probably for screening, initial screening. There it can be really useful, but it should not be involved in the decision, final decision. Now, social media not designed for professional purposes, like Facebook, is useless for for recruitment. That is what these studies here, the empirical evidence at hand right now proposes. It does not help at all identify high performers, and it does not reveal anything that would be relevant then for problematic behavior at work later on. So there is some usefulness in the social media, professional social media for recruitment, but there are of course still barriers for using then these algorithms, even if they exploit only these social media platforms. Societally undesirable biases. There are legal issues, of course, involved. I mean, in some countries you have to be able to explain the decision, even if it's a reject, to every candidate, or the way how you prove that you do not discriminate as an employer differs also in court, differs very much from one country to the other. There's, of course, applicant skepticism, which is a big issue towards these tools that are, of course, fueled by articles like this here. And applicants wish for human interaction in the recruitment situation. So they do not necessarily want to be selected by AI and then chat with a chatbot. It's a place where they expect human interaction at some point. So ways to move forward, since there is a potential for AI in recruitment, I think it's really nicely summarized by the statement here. We need AI that is explainable, audible, and transparent. So these algorithms must be designed so they can be audited and biases can be detected. Really a big, I think, great thing that Amazon, for example, revealed that they had the bias in their recruitment AI tool. And last point I want to stress, especially here as a psychologist and for recruitment, what is important that AI is explainable. And that doesn't mean giving the candidates the technical details. There's actually research now that shows that this even increases candidate skepticism, probably because they have more to be skeptical about now. But what is important in explainability is why the organization uses it and why the organization thinks this is job relevant. Thank you very much.